Hey now, what's going on, everybody? It's another episode of IoT Nuggets. And this is a follow-up. We actually have done one episode that if you haven't watched it yet, you should go back and watch it, with Tiffani Neilson of IoT Marketing as our guest.
Yay.
Yay, Tiffany.
Yay.
And I'm also joined by Steve Brummer, the king of IoT.
Still here, haven't been fired yet.
Still here, still hanging on. And, you know, last time we talked about marketing and IoT and some of the challenges. And one of the questions Steve asked Tiffany were, what are the two top challenges in marketing and IoT? And actually, don't forget bhiotgroup.com. I usually do a little housekeeping at the beginning. But one of the things that Tiffany said in response to the two challenges, one of them being ROI, and how ROI in marketing and emerging ways of marketing IoT in the space can be a little bit elusive sometimes, and how that can be a challenge. And so we're going to dive a little deeper into that today. I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Tiffany to discuss how you overcome some of those challenges and how Tiffany can help companies account for that.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. Tiffany, part two. So many companies out there put such hard dollars associated with marketing, and it's like the biggest pain for them. They just can't part with their money when it comes to marketing. No. So we try and figure, the ROI for them. Is it tangible? Is it non-tangible? What are people looking for? So when you provide them with a scope document of what you're going to do for a company, how much is ROI brought up, and how do you handle that?
Well, Steve, I think it really depends on the maturity of the solution and the maturity of the person you're pitching the solution to. Because at the end of the day, you're ultimately telling someone that may or may not know that they have this problem that your technology can solve, about what it can do for them. But it may take, IoT has a longer sales cycle than most other businesses. And so especially taking into consideration that someone's going to have to probably change their entire business model, because now they've got IoT data that they have to figure out what to do with. And if you know what kind of data that you want going into it, it's going to be a lot easier to see that ROI and to get ROI out of the solution. But when you're trying to explain that to someone that may or may not even know what IoT is, even though they're the end customer that you need to target, it may take a lot more than people are willing to, and companies are willing to really take into consideration, because you've got to educate that person. You've got to make them aware that they have this challenge that you can solve. You've got to educate them on all of these different pieces they have to be aware of. And then they have to have, the right team in order to fulfill it. So it may take a longer time than some people realize when they're considering a certain technology or solution.
Yeah, and as you know, IoT Group, we help a lot of companies with their commercialization, monetization strategy, and their go-to-market around the launching of a new product or a new widget or a new software application. And so many times we have to sit there and really explain that they have to allocate budget numbers to marketing. You can't just have another thing out there, another platform, another IP camera. And sometimes these companies just get scared to death when we turn around and say, listen, we know what to do, and we have the playbook that's going to get you to the market and get you noticed in the market, between the webinars and the seminars and the podcasts and the clubhouses and the trade shows and the marketing, like you said before in part one, billboards and things like that. It's the budget part. Is that one of the hardest challenges you have as far as the ROI? You have to spend X amount, and here's what the return is going to be.
Well, and where are you going to spend it? Because let's say that you're going to do a trade publication. Do you choose something that's about technology, or do you choose something about your end customer? Because a lot of people just look to go feature it in the next greatest, technology publication. But at the end of the day, that might not be what your customers are reading. Right. And so they have to take that into consideration when they're looking at the budget spend. And then how do you track that and make sure that it was spent appropriately and that you actually got something out of it? And it might not be until a year later that you actually see that, because someone's just understanding what it is you have to offer.
It's interesting when we sit down with clients to discuss their targeted outreach marketing program, we go, who buys your stuff? And sometimes the answers are like all over the place. And you go, well, how do you think I'm going to help you if you don't know who's going to actually sign the purchase order or commit to buying volumes of your stuff? And so I've got to believe that that's also a significant challenge, especially when it comes to ROI, is making sure they understand, all right, I'm vertical market focused. I got to go after this. So that's really, really strategy 101 for you.
And I think that's where IoT is coming in, and it's going to play an even larger role in the future of marketing, because you've got these smart devices that are listening. So that eventually they will get to the point where they'll be able to suggest the right product to the right customer at the right time on the right device, because they're listening and they know how to do that, because they know that that's what you want. And that's what IoT can bring to the table, is this new wave of integrated marketing that we're just starting to even absorb what's possible of.
Excellent. All right. Well, Tiffani, as always, thank you so much. You are the first repeat guest that we've had on IoT Nuggets, which is so cool, and we appreciate it. This is such a important part of what we're trying to accomplish in the industry, is the marketing and the way you go to market across the board. So absolutely appreciate your time. This has been wonderful. Congratulations on being part 2. Overall. Well,
anything I can do for you, Steve,
here we go.
Help build the community, keep the IoT ecosystem alive and strong.
There you go. All right. Well, here's been another episode of IoT Nuggets for everybody. If you're interested in our services or Tiffani's services, just reach out to John or myself at bhiotgroup.com. We will be back on the road in the fall, which is a good thing for us, Tiffani, to be out in front of customers and shaking hands and seeing people without masks on. And so here you go. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you on the next episode of IoT Nuggets. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Doug.
See ya.
Bye.